Timothy Morris, and today on A Sharper Outlook we have the new governor of the state of Maine, Paul LePage. So I'd like to thank you for coming in, Governor.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
For taking the time to visit Thornton Academy and speak to our students, faculty, and the community of Saco. Now I know that as a new governor, there are many concerns you have, and there are clearly challenges facing not only Maine but the nation as well. With our school set as our setting tonight, I'd like to start by focusing on the issue of education. With this in mind, can you share with us your vision for the educational system in the state of Maine?
Absolutely. In the few months that I've been governor, I've been to a couple of Governors Association meetings, and those areas that I focused in are on education. And come to find out, the state of Maine right now is not ranked very high in our nation in education. We have some pockets that are doing well, but overall our ranking is not very good. And the United States is not doing well in the world. We're ranked 19th. Our neighbors to the north are ranked number 4 in the world. So we can learn a lot from our neighbors to the north. But basically, my vision is to, one, our dropout rate is currently 22%. I think we need to get that down to the national average, which is actually 11%. So we got to cut it in half. Number 2, I'm a firm believer that we got to bring vocational and technical education back to the mainstream, because not every student is going to go on to college. Not every student wants to make a living from a career in college. A lot of people want to make a living with their hands. And quite frankly, we need people that want to make a living with their hands. We need houses, we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need contractors. There's so much. We need draftsmen. So there's a lot of things that can be done. So I believe that we need to bring that back to the mainstream and not make people that want to work in vocational or tradesmen that they're second-class citizens. And thirdly, and the most important, is the cost of education is skyrocketing. The thing that we can do is introduce a 5th year or a combination of college and high school, so that a student can go, let's say, 5 years of high school and come out with an associate's degree, a diploma for the high school and a 2-year associate's degree from university, or the equivalent in credits that they can go on and take on to university. That does a couple of things. One, it keeps students in their support surroundings 1 year longer, so they have 1 more year to mature. Secondly, and what I believe is the most critical, is the cost of higher education is skyrocketing. That keeps it 2 years. You can get 2 years worth of college credit while you're living at home, while you're not paying tuition. And so I think that's very valuable for a state like Maine that is rural, and this per capita income is some of the worst in the country.
So talking about that 5-year high school plan, would that 5th year be paid for by the students or by the people in the community?
People in the community. It would be an option, and it would be it'd be optional. I think in grade 10 the student would have to make a decision whether they want to opt for the 4-year high school or 5-year high school. Basically, as our population decreases, we haven't really cut back on teachers, so there are plenty of teachers around to do the work. And so I believe that it would be done through the same K through 12 system. We'd just go to K through 13.
So since we have this more students within the educational system, if we add on a 5th year, would we need to build more facilities to accommodate these students?
Not in the way I look at it. In the last decade, last 20 years, our student population has been dropping. We used to have 225,000 students K through 12. We're down to around 180,000 students K through 12. I don't see the need to build more schools. What it may do is it will keep kids in school 1 more year, so the population in individual schools might go up. But I'll give you an example. Waterville High School, which I was the mayor of, when it was built, had 1,300 students. It's the same high school today, and it has 600 students. So I don't think you need more facilities.
Okay. Now earlier in that first question, you mentioned that we need to start doing more vocational programs. What kinds of programs would that involve?
Drafting is an example, electronics, carpentry, electricity, automotive, woodworking. These are the type of trades that need to come back in. Plumbing. These are the types of trades that need to come back into the high school. We just left a company this afternoon, a Rundle Machine Company, where they have three high school students from Sanford in their senior year working there. The reason they're working there is they want to go into that field. They're not interested in going on to college. So by the time they leave there, they can go on to Southern Maine Community College, but having worked there, they've already got a hands up on the technology that they're currently using in the workplace, which is actually more advanced than what they're going to be exposed to at Southern Maine Community College. So I think there's a lot of room for the educational system to work with the private sector and helping kids get up to speed in whatever trade they want to go into.
So adding on vocational programs, would a lot of that be sending students into the private sector like you just described, or would it involve schools to build more facilities to do it? Because a lot of schools, such as Thornton Academy, can't accommodate an automotive shop in the existing facilities.
I agree. It's a combination. It would be a combination. Rather than look at it as building more facilities, I'm looking at it more as involving the community college system, that Southern Maine Community College already has those facilities. There are communities, businesses around, private sector businesses like print shops, that they may have the opportunity to take a course there. Maybe it's a student gets out of school at 1 o'clock and goes to the print shop till 3 o'clock or some of that nature, so they can get some training and credit for the courses that they take. So I don't believe with the dropping in enrollment that we need to make large amounts of investments in infrastructure. I believe that we can partner with small companies, with nonprofits, with the community college system, and make it work.
Would we have to get teachers certified in these vocational programs to teach them, or could we just take regular people out of the community to teach these?
Well, you know, that's a very interesting question, and I won't give you a direct answer because I don't know yet, but I will tell you this, that the 4 best education systems in the world do not certify their teachers. Those are Singapore, Hong Kong, Finland, and Canada. They are just graduate. If you have the proper skill set through your educational system, you can get a job without having to have a government certification.
You mentioned earlier that the Maine state dropout rate is higher than the national average.
Double the national average.
Okay. So besides adding vocational programs, how are we going to bring the dropout rates down?
I think the reason kids drop out, for the most part, is lack of interest. So we have to keep our kids interested. 2 ways to do that. One is you broaden your course of your course offerings, and the other one is we need to get our teachers. We need to work with teachers to understand that the best learning comes from mentors, not teachers. So we need to encourage our teachers to become more of mentors to our young people. And that's what this country lacks, and this state lacks, and why we are falling from the top. Other countries, being a teacher is not just a career, it's a status. It's in Finland, for instance, teachers don't make a lot of money, but they are on the top of the career paths as far as status. And so I believe that we need to do that, and we need to work with our teachers to incite in them that teaching history is only part of the job. Mentoring for life is a critical part of the job, because in our society, we have gotten a lot of kids that go to school that are underprivileged, the middle class is gone, the poor are getting poorer, and a lot of families have one parent. So it's important that we can't say that teachers need to become parents, but we need to understand that there are more difficulties in society that we can take on and help at the school, at the education level.
Okay, so how is the state of Maine planning to get teachers to become more mentors than teachers?
We need to work with the higher education. We need to work with the folks at University of Maine, Farmington. We need to have the higher education folks get onto the program of understanding what is it that makes for a better student. What do students look for, and what do universities and community colleges look for in a student? I think it's a two-way street, and there's a lot of data that is being collected, and quite frankly, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, has been made a couple of presentations in the last few months to some of the seminars I've attended, and he's made some presentations, and he is gathering a lot of data, and there's a lot of information out there of how to make better teachers without having to regulate it by government.
Okay, so with the teacher regulation, would that be done more of on a local basis?
Yes.
Okay.
I think education is like politics. It's all local.
Okay, so now you mentioned talking more about vocational programs and adding a fifth year on, that'd be a bachelor's degree. So when would...
Associate's degree.
Associate's degree, sorry. At what point would students have to choose?
10th grade. I think that by the time they get to the 10th grade, they need to decide whether or not they want to stay into for 4 years or 5 years. And the reason it's important at the end of the 10th grade is in order to acquire an associate's degree, you're going to have to be taking college-level courses, whether you do it by virtual education, internet education. We have to have a collaboration between the high school, the school district, and the community college system. Much of it's going to have to be done through distance learning because not every community has a community college. So there need to be a point in time where a decision is made, and from that decision, you register into the, you work with the community college to make the courses available for the students.
So this fifth year of high school you're talking about, would that only be recognized within the community college and the UMaine system, or would that be something that we're going to get to be recognized nationally?
I believe that most of those courses will be recognized nationally. Many states are already doing it. 27 states have some form of courses given at the high school level that are accepted at college or universities. AP courses. Here in Maine, we call them AP courses. A lot of those students will get credit at higher education institutions. Clearly, within Maine, it would be accepted, but the courses that are going to be offered are going to be college-level courses. So it's not every student that's going to be able to reach it. But by making that decision in 10th grade, they may not be able to get 2 full years of college credit because they're not ready, but certainly they'll be able to attempt to attain some credit.
Now, would vocational education also be offered during this fifth year?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, many students that choose to go through the vocational or through the technical school, they may be getting like a master license for electrician. They may well get certifications that they need to be in a certain profession, and from there they can go into apprenticeships that are offered by companies around the state.
Recently, the state of Maine has cut contributions to the more local schools. Would that action be reversed in the coming months or years?
Well, in addition to education, K through 12, both in the first and second years of the biennium, we are looking to increase the first year by $20 million and the second year by $43 million. So in the next 2 years, we're looking to increase funding to education by $63 million.
Now, what is this intended use for the $63 million in education?
It's for better education. It's for a variety of things. One is we are going to isolate the state and find some test cases, some pilot cases for doing this fifth year. We've already had some school districts that have volunteered. That's one area that we want to focus. The other area is we need to bring equity. The distribution of the state, the EBS formula, is not fair and equitable throughout the state. As we were putting the budget together, we discovered that some smaller rural areas were being funded significantly below more urban areas. And so we need to adjust that so everybody gets a fair shake. I believe that the money should follow the student. And what I mean by that is, at the current situation in the state of Maine, if somebody drops out of school, the money that was given to that school stays in play and stays in the school district, and that student's lost, falls through the cracks, and he's forgotten or she's forgotten. What I want to do is make the money follow the student. So if a student drops out of school, the school loses that money. So there's an incentive for the school to do absolutely everything possible to keep that student in school.
Okay. In the past years, Maine has started consolidating the schools into what's called regional school units. For instance, here in Saco, we're Regional School Unit 23. Now, is this a motion you guys can plan to continue in the future?
I believe the formula for the consolidation was not good. It was from the top down. It was rammed down people's throats, so it was very adversarial in many respects, and it did not work as well as people had intended. I don't think you undo it. I think you find out where it's working well and you encourage it. Where it's not working well, you find out what are the reasons and see what can be done to make it better. But the big issue is this. As I said earlier, I believe education is local. Local meaning that the parents and the community need to be involved in educating their kids. They should have choice. I'm a big supporter of choice, vouchers for kids to go to any school that they choose they want to go to in the state. I think that the charter schools are a good thing for the state, and I'm going to encourage independent schools that are here in the state to, similar to Thornton Academy, that may want to become a charter type school. But I do believe it's local. At the same token, the administration, and there's a lot of things that go on in the education system that is not a local issue. Busing is not local. Infrastructure is not local. Computers are not local. So there's a lot of things that can be done at a more regional basis.
Okay, you just mentioned the idea of a voucher program in the state of Maine. Yes. Is that something
Yes.
that the state's looking into?
Yes, I am very, very interested in vouchers. I'm very interested in looking at charter schools. I believe the public school system in Maine needs a shot in the arm. And what better shot than to identify the best schools and having all the kids want to go there. And that'll make the less than best schools either get better or fall by the wayside. I think it's critical.
Okay. Is that something set in stone that we have a timeline for yet, or are we still in the research process with that?
We are in the process right now. What we're working on is we're trying to get our budget passed. As soon as that budget's passed, then legislation will be in to address the whole charter and voucher system. I believe the future is critical. One is a child and a parents should have the choice of where they send their kids to school. Number two is schools ought to be competitive against each other, and the best survive and the worst fall apart and go away. Because I tell you, poor school systems are terrible for our kids. We need to provide the best possible education. In the work that is being done currently, and here in Maine, we always say, oh, the class sizes are too big. You know, we have the lowest class sizes in the entire country on a per capita basis. We average about 11.5 students per class. The average is around 18 nationally, and the experts and the school systems that are far exceeding Maine or the United States, like Singapore, Hong Kong, Finland, and Canada, have class sizes of 25. And what they believe and their strategy is find the best teachers, pay them the best money, and then challenge them by giving them more students. We in Maine, we fight to get smaller class sizes. Well, the data is showing that a great teacher with 25 students does far better than an average teacher with 8 students. So let's find the best and pay them more, and let's challenge them to educate our kids.
Back on the topic of the voucher system, how would transportation be accommodated for that if a student were to go to a different town than the student was living in?
You know, there's a certain amount of that that's going to have to be decided by the parents. I mean, the school system is still going to be in play. There is going to be public transportation, you know, school busing within a local area. But if you choose to go 30 miles, then the parents are going to have to make some decisions. You can go 30 miles and you can get an education there, but you're going to have to find a way to get there. Or move to that locale.
Okay. Back on the topic of RSUs, as mentioned earlier, in areas where the RSUs aren't working, there are a lot of debate about them. For instance, here in RSU 23, the teachers are on different pay scales. So is there a way towns can easily withdraw from the RSU?
I'm not up to speed on that legislation, but I do not believe currently that it's very easy to get out without some significant costs to the communities. I will also say, though, that I am not one that believes in penalties. Therefore, you know, in the consolidation, one fallacy in the consolidation is if you don't consolidate, then you're going to be penalized. Well, I think that's putting a gun to someone's head. I don't believe that a person, if the consolidation isn't working for certain communities and certain schools, I think there ought to be some mechanism to get out. Now, you got to take a look at the economics, is how much money's been invested, and if you get out, how much additional costs are you putting on to the RSU and to yourself. So I think those need to be looked at. But from a standpoint of just putting an outright penalty, I would not be in favor of that.
Okay. Speaking of the budget and education costs, currently in the state of Maine, once teachers become a teacher within the education system, they have to join the Maine retirement system by law, and that takes away their Social Security. Now, some of these teachers who had a job before and may have invested thousands in Social Security lose that money when they join the Maine retirement system. Is there any legislation to fix this problem?
Well, number one is that's not a state legislation, that's federal legislation. And they don't lose it all, they lose a part of it. And we've looked in it, and I think it's unfortunate, and I agree. The whole idea is to bring some equity and to the system. I will say this, a state teacher who works their years in the system and retire receive more than they will out of Social Security, number one. Number two is I understand they don't lose it all from Social Security. You still get some. But the combination of the teacher retirement and what you get from Social Security is still greater than what you would get in Social Security unless you make significantly more money. But if it's the same money, if you make the same money as a teacher and the same money working in the private sector under Social Security, the teacher retirement is much more lucrative.
Okay. Now, in your proposed budget, correct me if I'm wrong, you propose that the teachers and Maine state staff pay 2% into the retirement system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, how is that going to help fix the situation?
Well, the two things. Well, actually, there's three things. First of all, the retirement system and what has been granted to the teachers is a fallacy in the sense that it could never have been paid as it been projected. It just physically will never, there's not enough money to pay for it for a variety of reasons. One is when the teacher retirement system was put in play, the average life expectancy was about 70. So a teacher would retire and you'd be in the system 10 to 11 years. Now the average is 20 years. Well, nobody adjusted for that. Nobody took that into account. So instead of paying for 11 years in the system, you're paying for 21 years in the system, and nobody made any changes to it. So the system will go broke. Two, the state of Maine has not paid into the system as it should have over the years. They kept kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road. And now you're faced with you got to pay it. Well, this year, for instance, it will take $846 million to fund the teacher retirement in this next biennium. The next biennium, it's $1.25 billion. Then it goes up to $1.5 billion. And so the point is, if you're going to meet your responsibility till 2028, the system will go broke before 2028. So or it's going to take the majority of revenues that come into the state. Our position is this: the system was a flawed system from the get-go. I know that a lot of teachers will say, no, you're selling it on the backs of teachers. The fact of the matter is, we are in 2011. You want to retire. The baby boomers are all coming at once. You want to retire. If you want a retirement at all, because you do not qualify for Social Security or a very small amount of Social Security, we have to make adjustments to the system to allow it to be sustainable going forward. Right now, the system will go broke, so we need to fix it. Am I happy about it? No. Is it reality? Yes. Does it need to be done? Don't fix it, and you'll see what I mean.
Okay. And talking about the deficit, what the current deficit in the state of Maine is roughly $12 billion. What are some of your plans to fix that?
Well, first of all, we have a $1.2 billion deficit in the operating side. We have to balance the budget, so voila, all these cuts that you're hearing and things, that's what we have to do because the revenues are X and we need to balance the budget. So we cannot spend beyond the budget. 2, people say raise taxes. Well, the per capita income in the state of Maine is some of the lowest in the country, and there's more people are unemployed. If you raise taxes, there are going to be even more people unemployed, more stress on the system, and that's not the answer in this particular recession. The next thing, the $12.7 billion, the $6.6 billion of the $12.7 billion is retirements. State employee teacher retirement. Some of the adjustments that we're making now will reduce that debt over time by about $3 billion, cut it in half. The other half, we hope that the economy can grow enough to pay it, but if it doesn't, you'll be facing another problem down the road. We suspect, with our estimates, that what we're doing will fix it permanently. Another thing that happened in the retirement is people were promised 7.75% return annually. It's never happened in the history of the stock market because in business you have ups and downs. They never took into account the downs. They only took into account the ups. So we need to make those adjustments. The remainder of the $6 billion is debt that was put on the books through bonds. Only $500 million of the debt was ever sent out to the taxpayer. Maine Constitution requires all bonds to be voted on by taxpayers. Only $500 million out of $6.5 billion ever went to the taxpayer. I've put a freeze on it now, said that any bonds that are sold have to be voted on. So it'll be up to the Maine people to decide at the ballot box how much debt they want to take on, not left up to a handful of people in Augusta to decide how much debt you will pay in your lifetime.
Well, Governor, I really appreciate you coming into our studios here at TATV. And I'd like to thank you.
My pleasure.
For your time. Looking forward to seeing your motions in the future.
Thank you so much.